What's up, everyone? And today I'm bringing a very weird deck. It's a deck called Duston. And I'm willing to bet half of you probably have no idea what this is, or unless you're clicking on this because you want to know what Duston is. First things, if you're expecting to take this to a tournament and win, I don't think that's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's a really neat deck, but just the way it functions, any smart player can easily play around this, which you'll see when it gets to the deck profile, which we'll get to right now. First off, I run 3 House Duston. Now, House Duston, when this face-up card on the field is destroyed by your opponent's card, either by battle or by card effect, and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon any Duston monsters from your hand and or deck to anywhere on the field. But you must special summon an equal number to each side. So, essentially, if it gets destroyed, you can special summon 5 Dustons to your field and 5 to your opponent's. Now, the one thing why I say this isn't quite that great of a deck is because all your opponent has to do is just sling 4 of them away into an access code and boom, your whole play is, all your plays are done. That's just the one downside of this deck. But if you're going against a deck that doesn't use links, like let's say Ursartix for example, then this deck can actually do something. Fortunately, most meta decks at least run some lanes, like most decks at least run an access code or an Apollosa. Also run 2 red Duston. The cool thing about the Dustons outside of the House Duston, the vanilla one, and Star Duston, is that they cannot be used for fusion, synchro, or XYZ summons. You can use them for link summons, you can use them for ritual summons, and that's it. You can't even tribute them. And when this card on the field is destroyed, the controller takes 500 damage. So red Duston is more or less one you're going to put on your opponent's side of the field. Also run 1 yellow, 1 green, and 1 blue Duston. And they all have different effects when they're destroyed, but nothing really big or as good as red Duston. Next, I run 3 white Duston. Personally, I think this is the best out of all 3 Dustons because at least with some cards like Access Code, Royal Soul Dragon, those require effect monsters. And white Duston's not an effect monster, so the rest of these can be linked away pretty easy, but White Duston will be a little bit harder for them to link away, unless they have something like an Apollosa specifically, or something that requires just monsters and doesn't have to be normal monsters, effects, or tokens. Next, I run 3 Star Duston. Star Duston it's really hard to tell how good this is. Unfortunately, it cannot be normal summoned and must be special summoned from the hand by sending to the graveyard any number of Duston monsters you control. However, the one cool thing about Star Duston is that your opponent cannot flip or special summon any monsters, nor can they set any spells and traps. Although it does have a downside, if your opponent controls more monsters than your opponent, then it dies. But it can at least be some sort of a floodgate option. Considering House Duston isn't most likely in scenarios going to get you the win, it's definitely nice to have the Star Duston to kind of help with that. Now I run 3 Goblin King. Goblin King's really cool. Let's say, for example, they're playing against a deck that they don't play any links, and you're able to resolve a House Duston. Goblin King will essentially become an OTK, because it gains 1000 attack for each fiend. And if you have 4 on your field and 4 on your opponent's field, that's 8,000 damage. And the Dustons have 0 attack, so attacking into any one of them is just going to be game. Now, next one, I don't have the physical copy of because, to be honest, I didn't really want to wait another 15 days just to make this video. And that is Stygian Security. Stygian Security, if it's destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one level 1 fiend type monster from your deck, which is pretty much all of these except for the Star Duston because that can't be special summoned except by tone effect. Next, I run a bunch of hand traps because, it gives this deck some fighting shot with 3 D-Shifter, 3 Veiler, 3 Crow, or not 3 Crow, 3 Droll and Lockberg, but I still also have 3 Crow as well, and 2 Nibiru. Moving on to spells, I run Pot of Extravagance. You could also run Pot of Prosperity. It's kind of interchangeable. I just like the draw power a little bit more in this deck because, to be honest, the Pot of Prosperity is just not really going to change much for you. So I just run the Extravagance instead. Next, I run 3 Whereof Thou. If you control a level 1 monster, you can add 1 level 1 monster from your deck to your hand. Although during the end phase, you take 2,000 damage if you did not normal summon the added monster, which really isn't too much of a downside. Now, one card that I know a lot of people would run in this deck, that'd be the Jack in the Hand. But to be honest, Jack in the Hand just really doesn't work. To be honest, it's not really even that great as a card in my opinion. More or less because, let's say you use a Jack in the Hand. And let's say you give them the option of House Duston, Red Duston, and Yellow Duston. What are they going to add? Obviously the House Duston. Because at least this will be good for our plays, but these won't be. So it's not really going to give us the cards we need. It'll give us a Duston, but having one Duston is not really going to do anything. In fact, there are cards I don't really even want to open. I'd much rather have them in the deck for the House Duston. Also run 2 double summon. You know, honestly, if we can get if we're going second and we have both a House Duston and a Goblin King, then we can take the House Duston, attack into any one of their monsters, which will destroy the House Duston, then we can trigger its effect. Then Goblin King can go in for big damage or potentially an OTK. Also run the 1 for 1. And lastly for the spells, 3 Imperm. Moving on to the extra deck. Now the extra deck, to be honest, it really does not matter because you don't really use it that much. So it's mostly just a bunch of good Link monsters, because while we can play XYZ monsters with the White Duston, the vanilla, that's usually going to be going on our opponent's field, not ours. So I run like 3 Link Karibo, 2 Relinquished Anima, 1 Link Spider, as well as an IP package with Masquerena, Phoenix, and Unicorn. I run 2 Crusader Equamax and some Link 4s and Skull Dread, Floral Soul Dragon, Access Code, and Apollosa. So, Lena, what do you think of this deck? Do you think it's a very odd deck? Do you think this has any meta potential at all? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video I make. Bye.